if you're trying to impress girls, do this with a bottle of wine. It's gonna be really, really cool.
Oh,
and simple. It's very simple. So not gonna break the bank either. One broccoli costs you like 50p. So
I was gonna say that definitely is not the main part of your day. The main part of your day is probably wine plus Netflix and chill, right?
Yeah, I don't want to get too personal right now. So, let's talk about something else.
Welcome to the Compiled Podcast, a show where two programmers talk about anything and everything. My name is Nick, and I'm the host of this podcast. In each episode, we will have a topic, and the goal of the episode is to compile the topic down to a list of essential points for our listeners. This week, we are joined by a recurring guest again, Yuekun. How you doing?
I'm good. You know what, Nick? It's really funny. Every single time we do these podcasts, and the start, you say it's a podcast where two programmers talk about anything and everything, and I just realized I'm not a programmer.
Yeah, I wrote the script a long time ago. I just stuck with it.
No, it's okay. I think I need to go back to your imposter syndrome episode to help myself out.
That one, funny enough, is I think the most used to be the most viewed episode, and then your episode about working out actually became the proverbial favorite. So
Wow.
so yeah,
I'm really flattered.
Yeah. How's it going? Is it still pretty chill at home, or have you started to leave the flat?
I mean, you can pretty much, go everywhere you need to. I don't know how things are in the UK though. How does it look? How does it look like in London?
It hasn't changed too much for me personally. It's definitely disheartening to see the news every day and see 700 people died today and stuff like that. But yeah, it's I think one good thing that has happened this week is the weather has turned really nice, and I think in the next week we're looking at maybe a high of 18, 19 degrees per day, which is awesome. Even though you can't really go outside, but
Yeah, that's a shame because the weather is so nice right now. Literally, have you seen that meme on Facebook where they show typical British weather and it's all rainy and it's so gloomy, and then there's COVID-19 weather and it's super sunny outside.
Yeah, I think a few weeks before the lockdown was implemented, it was like that already. It was really bad during the week, and then on the weekend it started going really well, and then everybody went to the parks, and and then there was a lockdown. So, but yeah, I was watching an episode on the what's the show called, on the John Oliver show. Last week tonight, that's the one. I was watching an episode on coronavirus, and he was talking about other countries' response since the outbreak, and it was funny because in Vietnam they did a pop song to sort of tell people to wash their hands and protect themselves from
Really?
from COVID-19, and I listened to it. I'm ashamed to say, I'm not ashamed, but I can't believe how much I like the song, to be honest. I'm gonna link it in the description, and it's become a super memeable base on TikTok. Lots of people are dancing to it. So
you like the song?
The song is really good. The song is really,
wow.
really good. I can't play it because of copyright.
No, I haven't heard it, but just the thought of having a pop song about washing your hands sounds really corny to me.
I'll send you a link after the show.
maybe you should attach a link to the podcast so everyone can listen to it.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm gonna do that, and this is just a snippet of fun that you can do during the time. I think in the UK also there's posts on Instagram that you can have fun with, and during the times where everybody has to stay at home, these are the ways I think social media are used for good and lift people's spirits.
Definitely, I think technology's been the saver for this whole outbreak. I mean, I've been following quite a lot of industry news with the sports world, and sports leagues like the NBA, like even British horse racing. They're doing all of these like virtual sports events instead of real sports events. Is amazing. They're using 3D modeling to essentially create like a video game, but not actually played by, but not a video game, but rather just a video of the game. It's insane, right? They were using artificial intelligence to make all these games possible, and it's crazy because the main drivers behind doing all of this are the sports betting companies. Is because they want to continue the betting business.
Okay.
So they need people to have something to bet for.
Yeah, it was funny. I was watching NBA the other day. The season's been suspended for I think almost a month now. I'm not a particular big NBA fan. I like to watch the games, and what they did, I think, was there's this game called NBA 2K, which is a video game where you play you actually play an NBA game, and then they just got
they got those NBA players to play those games.
Yeah, they got players to actually play games against each other, and there's a tournament that's ongoing. It's really fun. If you like basketball and you're sort of starved with any sports content like me, it's a good substitute.
Yeah, it's crazy because I know they're broadcasting it on ESPN in America.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about. I watched one, and it was it was just typical NBA game. You don't. Plus the bit you don't see about how much shit people talk to each other, because they do that in actual games. They just don't get picked up by the audio. Okay. But now there's a camera right in front of you, and then you're talking as you're playing. It's not family friendly. If you have kids, I wouldn't watch that. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch that.
Cool. Okay. I think that's a little bit of chit chat just to kick stuff in. This week we're talking about something that we've discussed a couple weeks ago, about dieting. I wouldn't say dieting. It's more like eating during the quarantine, and to avoid getting chubby or getting a isolation gut. I think that was the phrase that was used.
or maybe just in general, I would say nutrient deficiency in a way, because a lot of people start eating shit and their food choices start getting all whacked up, and things could happen in a bad way, essentially.
Definitely. So this week I think what's gonna be different for compared to other episodes is that I'm not gonna be able to talk too much on this, because if you know me like personally, if anybody knows me personally, they know that my personal health, the biggest problem with me has always been dieting or like eating healthy. It's not so much dieting, it's just about eating healthy, and that's the one area that I always fall short, which is why I'm still unable to cut down the last.
No, I think you eat a pretty healthy diet. You probably just eat too much.
I did for a while. I did for a while. I definitely I was definitely very healthy when I was in America.
Yeah, because you came back way slimmer.
Yeah, it was just a lot of moving about, because I lived in North Carolina without a car, and you pretty much have to walk places, and my grocery run is an hour walk back and forth, and
that's insane.
Yeah, with a car it's like 10 minutes. It's ridiculous. But and I think at the time there was a lot more exercise in my life. I was going to the gym twice a day every day. That was but now it's like it's impossible to do with a 9 to 5. I mean, it's not impossible, it's just I couldn't really balance it with work as well. But yeah, and then definitely the bit that has slowed down for me, and I've not done well historically, is just eating healthy. I think over the last winter especially, with the Christmas breaks and with all of the festive stuff. It's a lot of sugar, a lot of fat, and I've definitely gained some weight because of that. And
it's okay, everybody does, so don't worry.
Cool. But you've stayed in shape pretty much throughout uni, as far as I can remember. I've never remembered you as like gained a lot. I mean, you've gained weight, but that's not because of dieting. That's only because you were bulking for you're gaining muscle weight basically.
Yeah, well, I would say I was very lucky because I was born into a family that takes a lot of care when it comes to food choices, when it comes to what we put in our mouth. So quite naturally, from very young age, I start to understand these just very simple principles about what kind of food choices are good for you and what kind of food choices are bad for you. I don't really, back then I didn't really understand why, but I just kind of blindly follow them. And when you were raised in a family that's so used to eating something, so used to eating vegetables, so used to eating lean meat, you kind of just stick to it because that becomes what you like.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was really lucky in that aspect.
Yeah. So I guess, really what I wanted to do, I mean, what I really want you to do for this episode is sort of like spread these, or that's a bad word, pass this knowledge to the audience and to myself really, and see if we can make any difference for our lives as well.
Yeah, I would gladly do so.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned a bit of a principle in terms of eating, and why don't you give us like your first tip of that?
Okay, definitely. Well, before I start, I just wanted to make a very, very serious disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I'm not a dietitian. So these are just, my personal advices, based on people I talk to, things I read, and my own experiences. It's not strictly medical advice. So don't treat this like a Bible, because if you get into trouble, I'm not going to be liable.
That's very
anyway,
important there.
Once we get the legal disclaimer out of the way, now I can talk whatever I want to say.
I don't think that's how stuff works.
I'll try my best. I'll try my best to be sensible, obviously. So the first thing is, I think, especially during the self-quarantine period, I think it's very important for everyone to, continue eating a balanced diet. I know, Nick, you were really lucky because you work at Google, and, Google has this amazing welfare for its employees, which is, they have massive canteens where you can eat a buffet of all kinds of food, all kinds of cuisines from all over the world. That's honestly, the first time you took me to your office and you took me to the canteen, I was in shock. It was really, really cool. And the good thing about it is, all the food choices in there are, on the healthier side. It's not terrible. It's not like all McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like all Pizza Hut. It's actually gourmet, well cooked, and well selected food items. Vegetables, meat, carbohydrates, what have you, is really nice. And I think a lot of people, when they stop working, when they get out of their daily work or whatever routine that they were in and get into this stay-at-home thing, they kind of throw away all of the habits that they used to have. And I think that creates a pressure on your 3 meals a day. What are you going to eat when it comes to lunchtime, when it comes to dinner time? You start wondering, you start worrying. And if you're not prepared beforehand, chances are you're probably going to order a pizza or, go on Deliveroo and see which chicken place. So
definitely, I've fallen in that trap many times in my life, and funny enough, that used to be, that used to be my cheat day meal, because I really like fried chicken sometimes, and there's a pretty good place next to where I live, and they have Deliveroo. So it used to be the case when every Wednesday when I finish my weekly podcast recording, I'll get a Deliveroo, because I wouldn't be able to cook anything at 8 p.m. I mean, I could, but I don't want to. And
no, I understand the struggle for sure. I understand
Yeah.
the struggle. I have been there multiple times.
What's changed for me though is, since the lockdown, we've essentially not been able to, as you said, like the canteen and all of the food benefits is not there anymore for us. And what we had to do, or what I had to do, was a lot of cooking at home, and which wasn't too much for me, because I like cooking to begin with. So it's not like a huge effort on my side. However, I do find being totally responsible for your whole diet, and they require, you gotta make a lot of plannings, and you gotta make sure you don't you don't buy unbalanced stuff, because that's the one problem for me that I found. Like, if I go out and buy, I don't know, like 3 kilos of beef and nothing else, I'm just gonna have steak every day, and that's obviously not good, and don't do that. And so yeah, do you feel like that's something that people should watch out for? Or
Definitely, people 100% need to watch out for this. And I think there's nothing really complex about this. I feel like especially most of the young people that I've either met or lived with, or with whatever kind of interaction, I found one thing that was quite unusual to me, but I suppose is a very common occurrence, is that a lot of people neglect vegetables, especially in the Western countries. I felt like vegetables said they have such a bad reputation, especially especially in the eyes of children. I personally blame the way vegetables are being cooked in most of the Western cuisines, just because people don't put a lot of seasoning into it. I mean,
which is not cooking, right? It's just a salad, basically.
It's like boiling. That's pretty much it. And then you have salt, pepper. In England, you probably have brown sauce on the side, which I never figured out what's in the sauce, but anyway, I felt like even though you can't suddenly learn how to make vegetables tasty, which I would definitely suggest people to invest time in and learn. But if you can't do that, you still need to force yourself to eat vegetables. Like, you need to eat your vegetables. They're so important in terms of keeping a well-balanced diet. You can eat, aside from vegetables, everything else, you can eat whatever you want, really. You can have fried chicken on the side, you can have whatever, but you need to have a fair share of fresh or frozen vegetables to, almost like counteract or balance it out. So then you're still getting some kind of vitamins, you're still getting some kind of minerals, you're still getting some kind of
like healthy fibers and whatnot. Yeah,
it will help you. It will help to alleviate a lot of digestive pressure on your stomach, for sure.
Definitely. I think speaking on the side of not eating vegetables, I think this was something that I was told repeatedly growing up, and by parents or any caretaker that's that had our health in their hearts, but we just like completely threw it away. And I definitely felt I don't like completely not eat vegetable, by the way. I do have some a few ones that I always go to, a few staples, but I do feel like it's very limited. It's not close to enough in the quantity and diversity that I would need. So yeah, why don't you sort of I don't know if you want to get into this already, but why don't we sort of list a few sort of staple vegetables that it's easy to buy, easy to keep, and whether fresh or frozen, and and they also give you vast health benefits.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can suggest a few go-to vegetables that I would usually pick out when I go to the supermarkets or grocery stores. Obviously, I don't live in the UK right now, so I don't really know what the availabilities are like on these specific vegetables. But I would say, in a perfect world where everything's available, I would definitely go for these choices. Um, first of all, a lot of people don't like asparagus, but I love asparagus. I think it's just the taste, especially if you cook it correctly. If you bake it in the oven for about 5 to 8 minutes, when it comes out, the tips are crispy. It's amazing. You just sprinkle some salt and pepper on top, and you're done. And it's so simple, and it's such a great replacement for fries. If you're having, say, if you're having if you're trying to make nandos in your home, instead of having fries on the side, you can actually have asparagus.
I think they do. I actually think they do in Nando's. I don't know if it's asparagus or they definitely have some sort of salad dish on the side.
Yeah. I'm sure they do. I think they have those like long stem broccolis, which is also really cool. I like those a lot.
Oh yeah, what's the difference between that and broccolini? Is there a
I think
difference?
it's the same thing.
It's the same. Okay.
Broccolini is just the baby broccolis with like really long stems.
Okay.
And I think they're probably also called long stem broccolis. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm
see.
not really I'm not really an expert in plants, but I think when I put it in my mouth, I feel the same. So I don't really care about the differences. Maybe it is.
It was not an attempt at a joke. I hope.
No. It would be that joke. Anyway, as I was saying, asparagus would be really great. Mostly for its anti-inflammatory properties. Also, is really well packed with vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin E, and minerals like zinc, magnesium. These are definitely really really essential to our overall well-being. So I would definitely recommend asparagus. Although I do know that in England, asparagus are packed in tiny packages, and they're pretty expensive. I think for what a small bunch costs you like sometimes £2 even.
Depends on where you buy it. Yeah, depends on where you buy it.
Yeah. I mean, when I go for asparagus, I go to Lidl to buy asparagus. I don't go anywhere else. I can only afford Lidl asparagus. So yeah. But if you want a cheaper substitute for that, you can go for broccoli or cauliflower, which are equally nice in terms of their nutritious properties. Broccoli is really high in vitamin C, and on top of that, it also has, I think, if I remember correctly, it has 6 different types of B-type vitamins, and vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K. The whole deal is generally really really healthy.
Yeah, I think let me interrupt here a little bit. I think broccoli definitely is one of the most staple thing that I've heard during like a healthy diet plan. It's say like chicken and broccoli, right? Chicken and broccoli. I've tried it for a year. I actually have this experience in my second year of uni where I ate steamed chicken and broccoli for a whole year. Like not every meal, but definitely every day for a whole year.
So you've been to hell. Basically.
Exactly.
That's what you're trying to say.
That was so hard, and that was I don't imagine anybody could enjoy that. So I this might be a bit early to get into this, but do you have any particular sort of dish or ways to cook broccoli that will make it a little bit more how should I say tolerable?
Well, I would definitely suggest you, when it comes to broccoli, it's actually the same way as you would cook asparagus. So I make these broccoli chips. I don't cut the broccoli into exactly tiny thin chips, but I just cut them into slightly smaller florets, as you would normally see in restaurants, because those restaurants florets, they're like gigantic. I probably cut them into smaller sizes, maybe 1/3 or 1/4 of the normal size, and I just lay them out on a oven tray and just put it into the oven. Sprinkle, obviously beforehand you sprinkle some olive oil, salt and pepper on top, and whatever other seasoning you like. You can put in some chili flakes, or you can just dash some paprika or whatever to make it tasty, and just chuck it into the oven for about 10 minutes. Take it out. Is amazing. I think I did it on around 200 degrees. Came out perfect. And definitely, guys, if you're trying to impress girls, I know you can't really go on dates right now, so just save this idea for later. But if you're trying to impress girls, do this with a bottle of wine. It's gonna be really, really cool.
Oh,
and simple. It's very simple. So not gonna break the bank either. One broccoli costs you like 50p. So
I was gonna say that definitely is not the main part of your date. The main part of the date is probably wine plus Netflix and chill, right?
Yeah, I don't want to get too personal right now. So, let's talk about something else.
Cool. Anything else? I think you mentioned the cauliflower as well, right?
Yeah, cauliflower is really good. Cauliflower. I used to make these cauliflower rice. If you have a food processor, you can grind cauliflower into small granules, or you can also make cauliflower rice with a blender, although it might break the blender sometime. So be very careful with it.
Or you can just cut it, right? Like it's not impossible to cut it into.
Well, you definitely need to chop it like a lot.
Yeah.
It works. You can do it. I think it's probably going to take you about an hour for each broccoli.
Oh, okay.
Each cauliflower. Sorry. Yeah, it does take a long time. Because when I didn't have a food processor, I tried cutting it, and then it took me a long time, but it worked. And then I was like, okay, so this is great. I'm gonna do it with my blender, and I broke my blender with it. So
yeah, blenders are not.
That's when I realized I need to buy a food processor for it. So I really learned it the hard way. So if you're trying to make this, go for the food processor. It would definitely help you a lot. And also you can make cauliflower flour, so you can blend it even nicer. I did that to make pizza dough. So I did a cauliflower pizza.
That's very cool. I've never heard of it, but sure.
Yeah, I mean, the recipe is all over YouTube. A lot of people try to make it. They basically use cauliflower as a low carb substitute for pretty much any carbohydrate that you would eat. So cauliflower pizza, definitely look it up. It's really nice.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
I would say probably one last thing is purple cabbage.
Yeah, I think it's called red cabbage in the UK, right? Or is it? Yeah.
Well, it looks purple, so to me it's purple. What is it called again?
Red cabbage. I think if you if you actually look at the label, it says red cabbage or
red
or stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It looks purple basically.
Yeah. Well, I personally think this vegetable is a unsung hero in many cases, especially in the UK, because I felt like whenever I go to the supermarkets, nobody buys red cabbage at all.
No, it's not really common here. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're mostly available in most of the big shops. So I'll definitely suggest people to buy it. Because I don't know, in China we eat them quite a lot. They're pretty much almost like a staple salad item.
Yeah, it's the same in America. This is like part of coleslaw, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
I mean, people give it nicknames like they say is a cancer fighter because of is really rich in antioxidants, and also this thing called anthocyanin. I don't really know if I pronounced that right. I probably butchered the name.
Yeah. By the way, we spent like a minute before the recording just to make sure we call this correctly, and I don't think we did. But
yeah, I don't think I pronounced it correctly, but it's spelled as ANTHOCYANIN. So, for anyone that's interested, look it up. It's really, really good. Basically, it's the same as the coloring agent that makes the cabbage red or purple. That's basically what it is. And it's also, you can also find this in blueberries, so, fruits or vegetables of this similar color that have this, and is a very strong, very potent type of antioxidant.
Mm-hmm.
Super good for your health. So definitely go for that, because it could boost your immune system.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, how do you cook red cabbage? Do you just like braise it with vinegar, or you just cut it and make it as a salad?
I mean, sometimes I make it into a salad. That would probably be the most common use. But sometimes I try to, be fancy. If I have more time, I would try to make it into a soup. Those like Russian red type of soups that they have with red cabbage, with I think
the one with the potato. No.
Potato, yeah.
Okay,
it was that one.
Okay, I have some recollection, but I don't know the name, and I don't want to attempt to say it.
I don't really remember the name. I don't want to, I don't want to embarrass myself anymore. So I'm just gonna call it a Russian red soup.
Yeah, we probably should have done some research on
but
this
I'm
one.
I'm sure people know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
so it's okay. Yeah. So that pretty much is, most of the vegetables I would go for, and some very obvious choices like spinach, like kale, and also a lot of people hate garlic, but garlic is really, really good.
Mm-hmm. It's just the smell. Like after you eat it, your breath's gonna stink.
I think that's why people kind of are repellent to it.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like garlic.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you're staying at home. You're not really going anywhere and meeting anyone. So if you stink, you just stink by yourself. So eat garlic.
Yeah, it does taste very good. Like think about Pizza Hut. Oh, that's a bad example. Think about like gourmet Italian restaurants with like a garlic butter ciabatta. Right.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I saved myself. I started with Pizza Hut, and then okay. There's one particular thing I just want to mention it really quickly. There's one particular thing you wrote in the outline that I thought was very interesting. You wrote seaweed, and this is not something that I incorporate into my vegetable collection at all. What's this about?
Well, I went for seaweed mostly for its richness in minerals. Because it's soaked in the ocean most of the time. So most people think it's garbage, but actually seaweed is really, really rich in a ton of different types of minerals, especially potassium, which is good for your health. Is a great source for potassium. You don't necessarily get very convenient sources of potassium elsewhere. You can get it from bananas, and a few other fruits and vegetables, but is rarely seen. So seaweed has a very high concentration of that.
Oh yeah.
I'm not encouraging people to eat a ton of seaweed, obviously, because it's not suitable for everyone. Especially those people that have what's it called, the hyperthyroid syndrome. Yeah. So for those people, be very careful when it comes to eating seaweed.
But I think for the general public, this is something
for general healthy public is really, really good for you. Have some seaweed once in a while, maybe once a week or so.
Yeah.
Is it can't hurt.
Yeah, we definitely had this experience not recently, but last winter when it was getting cold. Caprice went out to the Asian market and bought, like, because you can buy seaweed, dry seaweed, right? You can just buy them in bulk. So she bought like a whole bag and then a pack of miso. And when it gets really cold, when I come back from work really cold, you just whip out the old miso soup with a tiny bit of seaweed, and that was pretty good. And if you have access to miso and seaweed, definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, or if you just buy, dried seaweed and just eat it as a snack, it's still good. I mean, that's what we used to do as kids, don't we?
Yeah, but those are processed, right? They're not like
Yeah,
it's not the one.
true,
I
true, true.
think though, if you just buy like dry seaweed and eat it directly, it's gonna be too salty, or like it's
Yeah.
very hard, or like it's not gonna be a pleasant experience. I would soak it in water or do some or do some processing
Oh,
on
you
your
mean the
own.
big ones? You mean the thick ones, like kelp, like really, really thick and dark?
Yeah,
I thought you meant like the seaweed chips.
oh, I see. Yeah, I think that that might work actually. I don't
Mm.
know.
You can definitely snack on seaweed chips, but the real deal, you probably need to work for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I think, we've these are the list of vegetables that we think people or myself don't use enough in our
Mm.
daily food selection, and we should probably incorporate some of them in. And
Yeah,
I think the only bit of thing that I would mention, especially during now, is you don't get a lot of time, or you don't get a lot of chance to go to the grocery store every day to restock your vegetables. So I think one thing that I've started to adopt, and I think is useful, is try to buy it in bulk, and then just freeze it if necessary, because a lot of these
yeah.
vegetables are freezable. The only bit for me, the only bit that's not doable is cucumber. I can't freeze cucumber.
Can you actually freeze these fresh vegetables?
Or you can just buy them frozen, right? You can buy frozen
Yeah, no,
broccoli
definitely
to
go
start
for the
with.
frozen ones.
Yeah,
You can.
and frozen kale.
Yeah. You froze. Oh yeah, kale. Kale can be frozen for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if you live in the UK or somewhere else where uh, um, grocery runs are not exactly an easy thing to do, consider some ways to buy frozen. You can buy frozen spinach. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
And broccoli. These are two good ones to stock up on, and because they're frozen, they last essentially forever. And peas, right? In the UK, you have to have peas,
Yeah.
and so yeah, don't I guess really the point was like, don't be afraid of frozen vegetables. They're not like they might not be as fresh as
Mm.
as you will buy in the fresh produce aisle, but still they still have a fair amount of nutritional values, and
Yeah.
yeah, you should not knock on them. Like,
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's better than nothing. When you have to go for the frozen ones, you kind of have to go for it. But
mhm.
obviously, if you can choose to get some fresh ones,
Yeah,
go for that.
yeah. I think especially now, I think the supermarket resupply has been a bit leveled, and for me, definitely, when I go to my local Sainsbury's, every fresh meat is there. Every most of the vegetables are there. I couldn't get ginger yesterday, which was a piss to me. um yeah, but you can get, if you're not looking for ginger or like any stuff that might not be restocked very often, then I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. I think uh apart from eating vegetables, there's also um because you're not going out so much, your as we discussed the other week, your energy expenditure is not that much as it would have been
Hmm.
before. Do you think it makes sense to sort of eat less, or how do you like limit to not take so many calories?
I think there's definitely a need to limit your total calorie intake to some extent. That is, if you're actually becoming less active than you usually do. Because I know there are freaks out there who actually exercise more than they usually can. So some people might end up burning more calories than their normal working days. But for most people, I'd say, without all the walking, you're probably becoming a lot more sedentary than you already are. And you probably, it would definitely be reflected through your appetite as well. You probably don't feel hungry anymore, and you probably wake up and you don't feel like having breakfast, or when it's lunchtime, but you have to wait till like 2 or 3 p.m. to feel hungry and eat something.
Then you're not hungry at 6 to eat dinner.
Yeah, and then you're not hungry again at 6 or 7, and you have to wait to the Spanish dinner time. So it's okay. It might work for some people, but a general advice would be, limit your total calorie intake if you feel like you're not, if you feel like you're not burning as much as you usually do. So then your body will stay in its homeostasis. So a lot of people try to delete a meal from their day because they don't feel hungry at the time. I find that to be really, really bad, because I've actually spoken to a lot of people that does that. But I don't know if that's the right thing. I mean, do you do it? Do you know anybody that does it?
I don't, but I think Caprice does every now and then, because she apart, like, up to now, before she started her new job, she's been like staying at home most of the time because of the quarantine, obviously. What happens? Yeah, exactly. What happens is that she will have lunch late, and then by dinner time she won't be as hungry, and sometimes she just like skip it completely. And this is not to knock on her, but yeah, as you said, like I also have skepticism about like actually skipping meals altogether, because I think your body has a rhythm of activity, right? So it's like before this, you have like 3 times a day. Your body knows to digest food, and then it does its thing and whatnot. So it has a rhythm and a routine, and disrupting it might not be that good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for, because I feel like simply just eliminating one of your meals will probably make you hungrier for the next one or for the other meals that you have. So when you're more hungry, you probably end up overeating. So then in total, although you only ate 2 meals, but the overall calories you've taken in throughout the day is probably going to be higher than, say, what you would normally eat.
Yeah, definitely, because you might just like wake up the second day and then have, I don't know, pizza for breakfast or something really really bad, right? Because you'll be like starving for, I don't know, like 10 hours, 15 hours or something like that. Then you become extremely hungry and you just go nuts, right?
Yeah, it's definitely really, really bad for you. And just as you said, it's best not to disrupt your bodily routines. Your stomach releases acid at a certain time to digest food, and you should feel hungry, but because you're not moving as much, you don't really feel the urge to eat. But you should still try to eat something. So my advice would be just eat a little less in each meal that you would normally have. So maybe, for your breakfast, if you eat 5 pieces of French toast, eat 3 or eat 4. And for lunch, if you have a 10-ounce steak, have 6 or 7. For dinner, whatever you have a bit less. Just cut back on the small parts, but make sure you're still eating. Make sure you're still in the same rhythm. So when you have to go back to work, which is eventually what everyone should do, you won't feel too out of place. You won't feel like your life's out of whack, and you have to adjust it back again.
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely makes sense to cut for just caloric intake wise, and the way to do it is not to not have a meal and eat normally, if not more, because you're gonna overeat, as you guys say, you're gonna overeat, and it's better to say just cut like maybe a quarter out of each meal, but still have that meal, and in the end you would have cut like maybe a quarter of your food intake, and that would be enough, right? sort of.
Yeah, it will be enough for sure. And I think the key to not overeat is to actually enjoy your food.
Okay, this is something that I'm not doing, and
we're all
yeah.
I know, because I do the same too. I just rush through my food because I'm not really thinking about anything when I eat. I'm so focused on that plate and I just want to get everything into my stomach and get it over with. That's literally what I do every single time I eat.
Yeah.
But I think now, we're working from home, we're staying home most of the time, so we have time now to actually enjoy our food. So why not do it?
Sometimes you have to do it consciously, though.
Yeah. You have to slow yourself down. You have to slow yourself down sometimes.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, it's mostly because your body needs time to realize you're actually full. So then, if you're eating too fast, your body is like, oh, I don't know how much you're eating. I just know you have a certain amount of time to eat. So it's only going to tell you, okay, I'm full after like say 10 or 20 minutes. But maybe in the space of the 10 or 20 minutes, you had like 10 burgers. So you know what I mean? It's a very extreme example, but that's how those like food fighters eat. Those guys who go to those eating competitions. They eat really fast. Is because after a certain time they're full, so they can't eat anymore.
Yeah, this was a joke in our flat where I think Caprice says this a lot. Like I will spend maybe an hour to cook something, like cook a dish, and then you spend 2 minutes to eat it. That's not it's not as extreme as that, but it's definitely unbalanced in that regard. Like the time I take to prepare a meal versus the time I take to eat the meal is definitely like 2-1 or even worse. And
no, I know. I do exactly the same thing. I think most guys do that. Most guys would probably be on that side.
It's also because like I recently started doing this weird thing where I used to just make food and eat it, and now I'm trying to make some food, make some sort of dish, but also make it look nice because I gotta post something on Instagram. And doing that took so long.
And then the whole time you're making your food, you're just thinking about how you're gonna eat it. So when you're actually ready to eat it, you just go all in.
Yeah,
I get the feeling.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, maybe I should start posting on Instagram.
Maybe you should. Those minutes when when you're writing your caption, your stomach is crying.
Yeah, definitely. So. Cool. Any other tips that you've got, like as a general tip towards eating, or?
I would say probably counting calories. Counting calories might work. I know some people that use this app on their phones called MyFitnessPal. And I used to do that as well. I think I did it for a whole year.
Yeah, you did it for a long time. You were adamant about like logging every single thing, and
it slowly developed into a compulsive behavior, and then I realized it's not healthy for my mind. So I stopped doing it, and I turned out fine. So it's something that you can use if you feel like counting calories give you more reassurance. But I wouldn't count on actually counting your calories, because first of all, nobody is like perfectly good at doing all those maths. These softwares, they have their drawbacks, which is those units that they use. And say, for example, if you're eating rice, they say like 1 cup. I have no idea what 1 cup means. This how much rice is in 1 cup is completely different when it's dry and after it's cooked. So there's a lot of like inaccuracies in these little details when it comes to counting your calories. And also, what are the chances of people actually logging in every single food item that they have throughout the whole day into the software? Is too crazy, because sometimes when we eat, we don't think.
Definitely, especially when you cook it, because like, are you gonna count the 1 tablespoon of olive oil that you put into the pan as well?
Exactly, it's so crazy. I didn't know how I did that. It was just insane. I granted, I was really bored that year, so the only thing I had going on in my life was just counting calories. But but I wouldn't recommend this. It's gonna drive some people insane, so definitely don't do it. It also is not good if you're in a relationship, because it's definitely gonna drive your girlfriend nuts. Especially if your girlfriend likes ice cream, which most girls do. So, yeah, just for most guys out there, it's not a safe thing to do. Especially right now, if you're self-quarantining with your girlfriend, you're both stuck in this place and you're going crazy with your calories.
Yeah, I wouldn't say if it's a lost cause completely, because it definitely has some merit.
No, it helps.
Yeah, in sort of getting a gauge on how much or how many calories you are intaking. However, treat it with a grain of salt, and pun intended, and don't go too crazy on it. And it's just a ballpark of how much you're eating. It's not like 100% accurate. It's not even close to like maybe 80% accurate.
It's not even close. I mean, even after a long time of practice, I still feel like sometimes my calorie counting is a bit off. Like I can be off by like 50, 100, maybe sometimes even 200 calories a day. The thing is, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because as long as you're eating healthy food, as long as you're, eating slowly and make sure you get to a point where you feel satisfied, but you're not completely stuffed, and you just stop. Your body works the best way to tell you how to stop eating and maintain itself. So,
I feel like if you do that, if you do everything else that we've discussed, and then you also log your calories, it's not gonna be even that is not gonna come like too high, right? If you make sure you eat a fair amount of vegetables, which fills up pretty quickly, and you eat it very slowly, not very slowly, but like in a reasonable pace, where where you stop when you will actually feel full. And if you do that, your calorie intake wouldn't be that crazy anyway. So
no, it won't be.
It's just a I treat it more as a red flag if sometimes it goes over to like to some value, then it means you probably need to watch out. But I wouldn't like meticulously check it every single day. That would not be healthy for my brain, to be honest.
No. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this. When I was doing it, I think, a big part of my day goes into thinking about what I'm gonna eat next, which is not healthy. Especially when you have stuff to do, especially when you actually need to focus on other things, more important things. But all you can think about is maths in your head. You're like Rain Man, just all these numbers going through your head, and you're trying to figure out, okay, I just had 200 grams of carbs. My goal is to have 325 grams of carbs, so I still need 125. How am I going to fill 125 carbs with, say, I also need another 100 grams of protein and 20 grams of fat. I can't eat a steak because a steak would have less protein and more fat. How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
Do I drink a protein shake, or do I do this? You go crazy. It's not worth it. You have much better things to do in life. Don't waste your energy on this.
Yeah, definitely. Watch out for that. We've discussed most of the general tips for getting a healthy food selection, and then how to like approach eating. There's one last point about supplements, which I have to say I'm not as big of a fan myself, but but you really wanted to put it there, and let's hear why.
Well, I wanted to put it here mostly because we mentioned before that sometimes we need to go for frozen vegetables. So the main difference between frozen and fresh vegetables, I would say, is probably a small loss of micronutrients in frozen vegetables. Nothing is better than fresh. So if all you have is frozen vegetables right now, which is still good, eat your vegetables even if it's frozen, but you should probably consider taking some health supplements just to reach a similar outcome as if you would eat a very balanced selection of, say, fresh vegetables. So, especially in the UK, I think it's highly recommended to take vitamin D because, you need sunshine. Weather is not really in your favor. Plus, you're staying in.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter now because you won't be able to get
sunshine.
Yeah.
So you need those little sunshines and those little pills to help you stay healthy. So definitely vitamin D I would say is a go-to. Whenever I'm in the UK, I start taking vitamin D for sure. It's just it's just me, but it's a staple in my everyday routine. And also omega-3 fish oil, I think, is quite nice as well. People say it has positive impacts in terms of mitigating cardiovascular issues, in terms of promoting good mental health, etc., etc. I'm not sure if those are conjectures or if they're actually actual empirical evidence behind those. But there are various studies coming out and claiming this to be true, that to be true. So I would probably go for it. It's kind of a better safe than sorry thing. It's really mythical at this point. And other common stuff like vitamin B, vitamin C, and maybe if you're a lazy person like me, just go for a vitamin complex, which is like a multivitamin pill, and that's it.
Yeah.
So nothing crazy. Yeah, definitely.
I would say like the one thing it's worth noting about is probably take these supplements, but make sure you take them with instructions, right? So if the instruction says with meal, definitely do it with meal. Otherwise, you are really just like having these supplements, and your body is probably not gonna absorb it probably, and you ended up taking it for nothing.
Yes. This is a great thing to talk about. Actually, I've read a paper before talking about how most of these pills are basically a waste of money if you don't take them properly. So because the micronutrients are so densely packed in these pills, it becomes increasingly difficult for our bodies to actually absorb them. So it's even more important for you to take some of them with your food, in order to help you digest properly. But there are some occasions where or some outliers where it says, make sure you take it with an empty stomach or whatever.
Just read the whatever,
just follow those instructions properly, and I think it should be fine.
Great. So that's everything that we have for eating healthy during the quarantine. Is there any, out of everything that we discussed, is there any particular point that you want to emphasize again, and just to make sure our audience get in?
Well, I would definitely say eat your vegetables, and eat your vegetables.
Definitely.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this is something that I've not done well up to now, and I'm going to start changing it. And maybe the next time when we have another recording, I can update on how my vegetable intake has been and has it made a difference, which I think it will be.
Try those broccoli chips. It's gonna change your life.
with a tiny sprinkle of garlic, right?
Definitely.
I think for me, definitely, having a healthy selection of food is important, but really the habit of eating is also equally important, if not more. Specifically, just having a slower pace to eat your food, and not rush it too much. I think it's hard for people who are also working at home, and you wanna sort of keep your lunch break as short as possible, and make sure you get your work done. And you gotta realize these are trade-offs you have to make, and your body is a temple, and you should treat it with respect. And work can wait, to be honest. Like I think if there's one thing that I've learned like throughout working at home is like, take care of yourself is more important generally than trying to rush some work through, because it's you can do it, but every now and then for like if it's really urgent or something, but don't make it into a habit for sure, because it's gonna come back to bite you.
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't have a healthy body, there's no work that can be done. So
cool. Thank you very much for coming on to the show. This is your third time. You might be a regular now.
I think it's the third time. Thanks for having me all these times.
Cool. Thank you very much for coming on to the show. And if you are listening to the podcast on YouTube, we will also have the audio available on iTunes, Google Play Podcast, and Spotify. So find us there and leave any comments that you have on the show. Reach out to me on Twitter, and happy to answer anything that I can. And we will see you next week.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Bye.